This is your edge. To me, this whole last portion is the edge I'm trying to give you. You're going to go out there into the working world and you're going to find out that computer folks aren't any different than anybody else. They like to say, I'm going to keep up on things and I know the latest. And the truth is they're no different than anybody else. They like to do their little thing and they don't want anybody changing it or messing with it. That's a problem if you're in technology because things change all the time, right? You can't behave that way, but you'll see a lot of people that do. And you'll see a lot of people that just kind of keep their head down and they do what they're going to do. And I fix the PCs and that's all I'm going to do. And I do the networking and that's all I'm going to do. And you can go out and do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It is a bad thing to put your head down and not look at the changes that happen in technology because, right, that will affect your job. And then you'll be stressed because you never looked at it. But it isn't a bad thing to say, no, I just want to be the network tech. That's what I want to do, right? That's not a bad thing. So this portion I'm giving you is all about how technology has moved in society, how it's changed things, how it's caused disruptions and caused society to change, not just in good ways. Being able to understand that those things happen, they happen all the time. That's what this whole last section is about. So then that way, when you go out to work, you can see this technology moving forward. And instead of going, oh, I think that'll be cool, you'll actually have an idea of what it's going to do and how it's going to affect things. But what am I doing really? I'm really taking history or computer technology that affected things in the past and adapting that and saying this is probably what's going to happen with this technology because we see these patterns over and over again. So I'm going to introduce you to those patterns and be able to see what's happening. That way, if you want to be the person that's getting the better job, the person that's moving up or moving over at a higher rate, you'll be able to do that because you'll be exposed to all these things that basically I learned along the way, and you'll have them going in. Right? You'll see it going in. I tell you guys this, but if I was in the business, I wouldn't be telling other people this, right? This was one of my edges. This is one of the things that made me successful because I would say, oh, it's probably going to be this, this, and this. And then, oh, lo and behold, it was that. You do that a few times and people are like, trust James, just trust him because he knows what's going to happen. And anybody can do that. Okay, so having said all that, how do social theories fit in? Well, I found these while I was doing a master's project and really said, man, this is so much of what's behind what I know. This is like a foundation. This is this thick foundation that I didn't really ever think about. And man, I wish I would have known that. And so I was teaching 100 and I was like, this is really something that my students should have. And as far as I know, and this is the honest truth, me at EAC is the only place in the United States that's teaching this to a 100 class. This is stuff that they figure that you wouldn't do unless you were at a master's level. But really, if you're in technology, you ought to know this. You really should, and it'll make you super smart to other people. So we're going to take a look at some social theories and how they apply to computers. And that means we do have to start with just what a social theory is, but we spend a brief time on that. All right, so one of the topics I wanted to mention before we get there is technology is a disruptor. It has done disruption over and over and over again. And so Netflix is an example, iPods are an example, and one that you don't even know about, NetWare versus MT was an example. And understanding whether or not something is a fad or a total shift in what's happening is important. So what do we mean as technology as a disruptor? Well, when technology really, really changes and moves into a certain area of our society, it creates a ton of waves. It really massively changes things. And so if we look at iPod, for an example, I was not that big into iPods, honestly, or digital music for that matter. So let me show you a first gen iPod. So let me explain to you what happened here. These devices came out around the time that Napster was big, all right? So if you don't know what the Napster thing is, Napster was a program everybody was using to share music digitally illegally. That's what they were doing. It's true. It's exactly what was happening. And so when you really examine why, that's what social theories will help you do. The real reason why people were making this shift is because technology made it easy to do. And there was another factor. Music costs too much money. So at the time, you had to go out and buy a digital music CD, right? That was digital. So you bought a CD that was digital music, exact replication of what it was in the studio. That's funny that everybody wants to listen to LPs now. It's like, whatever. Anyway, so you had to buy one of those CDs, and they cost between $12 to $24. And that was back in early 2000s money. Nobody wants to pay 24 bucks for some music. Nowadays, people go, well, if I'm going to pay 24 bucks, I want 24 songs, right? Like $1.99 a song. That's what I want. So Napster came in and was doing all this stuff. This was not the first media player. Lots of people think that Apple was the first media player. They're just the first ones that did it right. HP, see if I can find this. But HP did. They made the first media player, and it was a piece of junk. Now, I was, high and mighty into the tech world. And so I used a Sony. Gosh dang, Sony's was just awesome, right? I mean, back then, if Sony made something, you were assured it was quality. What do they call these things? We'll just say Palm. That'll probably get me what I need. and it doesn't. Actually, this one's pretty dang close to what I had. A Sony Clay. I don't know how you pronounce that. But basically, what I had was a handheld device, smart device, and I could do tons of stuff with it, right? They called it a PDA. Now that stands for Public Display of Affection, but back then it was PDA was Portable Digital Assistant, and I had one of those, and so you could just put music on that and play music on it, and so that's what I started doing, and I soon realized that the biggest problem with that was that it was a piece of crap. It was constantly losing songs. It was constantly mixing up playlists. It was really, really a poor experience. Now, prior to this, right? So prior to this, I went on a road trip with the entire family. So, it's like all my siblings and everything. We went up to Yellowstone. And my brother-in-law was huge into Macs, still is. He only buys Apple stuff. And this is the first iPod that came out. And it only worked on a Mac. So it has these physical buttons and stuff. And there was a hard drive inside. And only worked on a Mac. And he's like, oh, you got to try this digital music. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have digital music. It's on a CD, and I put it in, and it plays. I can even take a CD and burn it and put whatever music I want on there and play it. No, you got to try this. You can play, different things in different ways. And he's trying to explain it to me, and I just am not getting it. Partly because, I like to listen to music, but I'm not that into it. And then part of it because I just couldn't perceive, this was so new conceptually that I didn't really understand. And that's one of the concepts that happens over and over again, is that when something really, really, really new comes out, most people don't get it. They have to experience it, and then they get it. So when the PC came out, I remember telling somebody when I was a kid, oh, you got to get a PC, we just called them computers. You got to get a computer. And they were like, well, why do I need a computer? Well, then you don't have to use a typewriter. I have a typewriter. Why would I want to spend a couple $1,000s on a computer? Well, because when you do stuff in it, right? I'm a teenager trying to explain this. For instance, you don't have to use whiteout, and you can back up and go over words and type what you want in it. And the person's like, that doesn't seem like it's worth it for $2,000. Finally, I gave up. I couldn't explain, oh, you can play games on it. You can, I just couldn't, they couldn't get it. Then it was about a year and a half later, the same person is like, I got a computer. You need to come over and see my computer. And they're just so excited about all the stuff they can do on a computer. But they had to experience what they could do to see the value of it. They couldn't just be told what it was. And we'll get more into that into our second theory. In any case, to finish up the story about the iPod, So then I was like, okay, I'll use it. So I take it and I put it in the car and I play it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing, just amazing. So then, of course, I don't buy one of the Apple products because, they're expensive, and I'm not going to do that. And so I tried to use my Sony to do that with, and it didn't work well. So I got one of these, and it was just fantastic. But I noticed that, after a while, people would start saying really stupid things. They said, "Oh, well, people just buy those iPods because they're Apple, because they want to be cool, because they throw out all the stuff." And I was like, "That's not true. I was there. People bought these because they worked, like out of the box. You plugged it in, you said put this music on, and you played it. Nobody else did that. It took them like 4 years to finally get to that point. It took Microsoft like 6 years, and they finally made this Zune, which was an incredible device, and then stopped making it because they lost that war, right? It's just my brother's got one of these, probably worth some money now. But they were just fantastic, but it took them too long. People used the Apple device, that iPod, because the thing functioned and did exactly what they wanted it to do. That's a principle you're going to learn in these social theories. Now, yes, it does get to the point where technology is so massive that everybody just uses it because somebody else uses it. So, yes, it did get to the point when iPods are so pervasive, they're everywhere, that people are like, well, they have one, so I'll just get one of those. Right? They don't even consider doing something else. They don't even think about it. Right? So that's something that we'll learn as well. So technology is a disruptor. What did it do to the music industry? Some people don't even remember what it did. That was one thing that basically Steve Jobs was good at, is convincing people. And he did go to some of the people in the music industry and said, technology is a disruptor and you're about to lose your business or move forward. And he did. He told a lot of them that. And some of them lost their business because they still wanted the $24 a CD, right? So you got all these people that are out there stealing music and putting it on their digital devices, whatever it is. And then you've got these companies that are like, no, I want $24 a CD, and I put 12 songs on that, so I want $2 per song. And that's where Apple's like, you're going to not have any money. That's what you're going to have. No money at all. Somebody's going to buy the CD, rip it, and then send it out to everybody else. So you can either have no money or you get $1. And they first started selling stuff at like $1.25 per. He wanted it at $1. So they negotiated him up to 25 cents more. And then of course later it went to $1. And so he was seeing that this is going to happen to you, and your only way that you can survive is to start putting this stuff out on our store and selling these songs for $1.25 a piece and letting people choose what they want. Yes, you're going to make less money, but at least you'll make money. And the people that didn't do that, right, the music companies that didn't do that, they disappeared. They're gone. They're like this big now. Nobody cares. Somebody else bought the name and took them over. So they still exist, but they're not the company they were, right? That's what happened. And that's just one example. Netflix is another. You used to be able to go to every town in America and there was a DVD store, right? A rental store. And so, it was VHS before that, but you would go down there and just rent whatever you wanted, whether it was VHS or DVD, right? Well, Netflix does this thing where you order something online. So you go out online, you look at their website, say, I want these, and then they send them to you. And then you put them back in and you send them back. And you get to keep them for as long as you want, which is not what the stores were doing. And, if some things got stolen, they would eat the cost of that. That's basically what would happen for them. And then if you lost, one every single month, then they just kicked you out and you never got to do anything again. Then Netflix started doing the streaming thing. And I'm telling you, at the time, nobody could stream. You could stream the movie maybe at your workplace that paid for really fast internet, but you're not doing it at your house. That was not something that seemed like it was ever going to happen to anybody. But they started. And that's about the time that Blockbuster decided, we're going to do the mail thing. Now, why did they stay away from doing the mail thing? Well, one, it's more trouble to do. Two, they're not going to get what they want. right? Netflix was basically saying, you pay this much a month, you can get as many of these as you want, or 7, or whatever the rule was. It was like double, right? You paid the same price for what Blockbuster was going to give you, except you got double what Blockbuster gave you. It was interesting to watch it happen. Of course, having watched what happened with iPods, and I didn't understand at the time, right? When this started happening, just a year or so later with Netflix, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Streaming's going to get better until everybody's streaming stuff. And if Blockbuster doesn't get on the bandwagon here and figure that out, they're going to be out of business. And that's exactly what happened. Blockbuster got into sending you DVDs about the time that Netflix was starting to stream. So they're a few years behind. And the honest truth is Blockbuster was better. Here locally, Blockbuster was right there where the GameStop is. And you just go in there and you could get whatever you wanted there and be on a monthly fee, and then also get stuff off their site and return it to them there. It was fantastic. It was wonderful. But again, too late. That they started doing that at the time they should have started streaming. And again, the whole problem was that money thing. We are not going to make as much money. And they didn't realize, yeah, but with this technology, you're not going to exist. You won't make any money. And that's exactly what happened to them. By the time they finally started streaming, it's too late. Netflix, by that time, is already saying, let's produce shows. And now they've grown to this huge thing. But Netflix, of course, is going to die if they don't realize what's going on, right? They're going to be cut out by ABC, cut out by ABC, Disney, that's the same company, NBC, CBS. They're all going to have their own stuff. What's Netflix going to be left with? Right? They have to jump to the next level and figure out what they're doing. So when technology comes into something, it changes how things are done and normally reduces the cost of something. That's the other effect. So again, the social thing on the bottom of all of this is the fact that money, 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 money. And technology comes in, somebody does it cheaper, and now you're trying to catch up. Instead of the technology came in, you saw that, oh, this is probably going to damage our bottom line, but we're going to go ahead and do this. Apple's learned that very well. For instance, they have iPads that are very capable, and they're a lot cheaper than having a computer. But they promote the iPads right alongside of the computer. They let people pick what they're going to do. They make less money off of those iPads than they do off of their computers. That's just the truth. Any company is going to. But if you don't do it, somebody's going to make this really nice tablet computer that does much more than what your regular notebook does, and then you'll lose your business, right? So they try to balance that because of what they've seen.